Is art school good or bad? Now, I believe that it is both positive and negative at the same time. In this podcast, I'm going to go in depth a little bit about a lot of different experiences I had going to art school, as well as teaching at art school, and then the experience I had before and after art school. I want you to take a moment and check out my website to see where I'm at currently in my art journey. So that way, while you listen to this podcast, you have an idea of what I'm talking about. Also, when you're at my website, if you see something that you like and you say, this is what I want to do with my life and this is where I want to be, then I do offer mentorship programs. It's basically just a hangout session, and it's what you make of it. If you want me to hang out with you for a long time and help you build your own art business, I can do that. I've been doing this for many years, and yes, I am very financially successful with it. Plus, I'm having a great time doing it. So I can help you to be able to get where you want in your future and to help you get there. So let me help you. And, even if that's not your dream and you see my website and it's not for you, just please listen to the podcast, because I still have some interesting ideas that I've gone through and experiences that I think I can help you to be able to decide whether art school is something good for you or something bad for you. And please keep in note that I am not biased one way or the other. I feel that it is everybody's personal journey. I'm always looking for somebody new, fun, and interesting to hang out with on the podcast. If you would like to be interviewed, please email me, or better yet, send me an audio file. This is going to be so much fun. I'm excited. So what I'm going to need you to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It is a purple app with a yellow squiggly line, and it's free and easy to use. First, I'm going to give you some examples that I have experienced in my own life that were positive benefits to having gone to art school. The first positive benefit was that I was able to practice and have an instructor guide me through practice. And I really enjoyed that. That was pretty cool. For the most part, there is a teacher every once in a while that you don't always get along with. It's always to be expected. But it was great to have a mentor and somebody guiding me and giving me tips and tricks and ideas on how I can achieve what I was trying to achieve. Another positive thing that I experienced was that going to art school had pushed me out of my comfort zone and forced me to try a lot of new things, techniques, a lot of new ideas, and gave me some ideas that I hadn't previously thought about. So it really expanded me. Another positive experience was that it helped me to create a portfolio. Now, a portfolio, I believe, is very super important in the art world because it shows a record of what you have done, and you can show with your diversity on different things that you can do and different outcomes, whether it be photographs of your art or the art itself. There are many different ways to make a portfolio, and going to art school helped me make many different kinds of portfolios. I also took a lot of other classes that were beneficial. For example, I took finance classes, which are now helping me with my business. I'm able to do my own taxes and figure out all of that stuff, and I don't need to pay an accountant, so that was great. It also was good because I went there in my early 20s, which were the grown-up years, so it helped me not be so wild. I was able to kind of be independent while still being in a community that was still fostering me in a good positive direction. I did party quite a bit. I had a good time, but I was still able to have a little bit of a family around me. So those are positive things. Really, everybody's journey is unique and different. There were a couple students I went with that did not have good positive experiences, and I went to school with one lady who was all about it at the beginning, and then towards the end it just wasn't her thing anymore. And by going through the experience of taking the classes and going through the art journey, she was able to come to the conclusion that it wasn't for her. So it was positive in that she ended up not ruining her life, and she's now an accountant and she's enjoying it. We're still friends on Facebook, and I see her post from time to time, and she's having a great life. And had she have not gone to school, she possibly wouldn't have experienced it. She would have experienced it, but she would have experienced out in the real world, and that's kind of scary. But being in school, it was like, okay, well, it's sad she missed out on credits, but then, I don't know, it was good that she was like, she figured it out early, so she was able to pivot and transition to something else. It's also good to have constructive criticism, and not a lot of people can take that, but I had really great teachers that just wanted me to be the best I could be, and I could really see that in them, and they really fostered me and helped me to, like, sometimes you gotta be told it's stupid, it's dumb, it ain't good. And then they would say it sometimes harshly and it would hurt, but then I knew they were coming from a place of love. So then the teachers would explain to me why. They would show me pictures, they would just going through the motions, and then by experimenting and going through it, then I'm like, okay, I get what you see, so let's try this again. And then I would try it again, and yay, better results. So it's good to be in that kind of environment with people that support you. So it's a positive experience if you can find a community that's really going to love you. Because if they don't love you and they're not there to help you, then it's really going to not be good for you. Which is pretty much common sense, right? But sometimes we got to get pushed. We really have to be like kicked out on stage and be like pushed out there, or otherwise we're not going to try. And I felt that when I was at school, they really did that to me. And then they would give me deadlines to meet, which would further push me to drive me, because sometimes I feel that I always find some other excuse why not to get it done. And when I was in the environment of the school, I was able to achieve so many different projects and things because it's a cycle of going through the school. And I really, it was a good program. So yeah, it's pretty much most of the positives. I am of the mindset that I enjoyed my time, it was good, but there are also many things I didn't enjoy about it. So let me talk about a couple of the things that I wasn't quite thrilled with. First off, the price. Very difficult. I found it very difficult. I had a 3.5 GPA in high school, which just wasn't good enough in college at the time for any of the scholarships. They were looking for 3.9s and better, and I applied for a million scholarships and nobody wanted me, and a lot of scholarships were out there that just weren't for my demographic. They weren't being offered. For example, I'm what they consider Caucasian, which technically I'm not, because my mom's from Mexico, my dad was born in Germany, and my mom was born in Mexico, but they still consider me Caucasian. So there were I wasn't a minority, and so I know it gets political, and that's a whole topic for another day, but I just want to say that in my experience, I didn't come from a poor family. My parents had gone to the university prior to me. We were middle class. We were super, super middle class all the way. So I wasn't rich, I wasn't poor, just in the average Joe. I didn't have the best grades. I didn't have any disciplinary issues. I never went to juvie. I never drank. I had my driver's license. I was a good kid. I did everything right. I volunteered. I did a lot of programs and a lot of things that were great. And I had summer camps and all sorts of fun stuff. And I was out in the community. But what happened was there were just so many people that were also really amazing people. And so the amazing people, they got all the scholarships. And I was happy for them. I was upset for me. But okay, so we're going to move forward. Well, when it came to financial assistance, at the time, there were rules set aside in place. I think they were laws with the FAFSA. I don't know. I guess the FAFSA, it's partially government and then partially owned by the banks. And so in the rules of FAFSA, they took into account the taxes from your parents. And so I understand why they do this and everything. But the thing was, when I went to college, my family loved me, but they said, bye, we love you, we'll see you on Christmas. And I was financially responsible for my own college. And that was like really stressful. And I don't know, I mean, I guess it was tough love that they were showing me. But I wish that maybe I would have had some former, I don't know, I guess I was more focused in high school about being a high school student than I was about my credit score and about trying to get a job and to establish credit and all those things. They were the farthest thing from my mind when I was in high school. So when I went to college, I had no credit built up whatsoever because I never needed to. I never needed a credit card or anything like that. I never had a loan. So getting my first loan, they wanted 22% interest, and that is extremely high. And then I couldn't qualify for any of the grants because my mom's taxes were considered middle class. And so I believe at the time she was making like $60,000 a year. And so it wasn't like we were broke and we weren't rich either, but they took into the account both of my parents' social security numbers. So because of that, it appeared as though I had money, and then, they would assume that your parents would give you money. And then it was a big headache for me, and I cried a whole bunch over it. And the rule of the FAFSA at the time that I went said that they didn't require your parents' social security numbers, your guardian social security numbers after the age of 25. Well, I was 19 when I went to the university, and so that's, so up until then it was like, well, what am I going to do? So I ended up getting a job, and I worked nights, and I went to school in the days, and it was very difficult, very grown-up experience, though a lot of people do this. I found it difficult, but I was able to manage, and I hardly slept at all, but I was able to get a 4.0, which is amazing under the circumstances, working 40 hours a week and going to school 40. And on top of that, I had gone to a college preparatory school in high school that was very difficult. So by the time I got to college, the classes were a tad bit easy. Like, I felt like, they put me in classes my freshman level in like math and everything that I was like, what? I was like, this is too easy, guys. So I tested out of a lot of stuff, which is still annoying that they made me pay for the full credits when I could just test out, and it was a whole drama and a half right there. And so, all the classes are different prices. Now, I know I'm all stressed out about money, but I did go to a public college, which is cheaper than private colleges by a lot. I went to Northern Arizona University. So it was way, 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 way cheap than pretty much every other college in the United States. So I was able to afford it. I was able to pay on time. I also made a decision I wasn't going to continue with my loan. I dropped it after my first semester. And I figured if I can't pay in cash, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to be having financial debt and burden, because with school, like some of the kids I went to school with, they just didn't, and so and then you're paying for, if you live in the dorm, housing expenses and everything else. So That means when you graduate, you got to think of, how am I going to pay back these loans and live and still have my job? It's almost like it's a punishment, it feels like, just a little bit. But then it's, well, you got to pay the teachers. Everybody needs paid. So it's part of the whole deal. Let's see. So the financial burden was by far the biggest, stressfulest thing that I had. But not taking out the loan and just sucking it up and dealing with the payments as they came. And then also I lived in a very inexpensive apartment, and I was practically peanut butter and jelly every day. So like with all of that in mind, when I graduated, I didn't have the stress and anxiety of having owing $50,000. So that was, positive there. But so that's a big thing to consider. Also, one thing I wish I would have done better was I wished that I would have budgeted my time better so that I did better in school. Now, I got straight A's, but I had to, oh my goodness, I had to kill myself for that because I wanted to work. I really didn't want to work, but I did. I wanted to go to school, but then I also wanted to party and have a life, just the normal, go to a Sunday brunch, just hang out and chill. And working 40 hours and then doing the classes. And then on top of that, I thought I wanted to get over with school. So I went through the speed through program, which was a 2-year program when it should have been a 6-year program. So I got the bachelor's degree in 2 years, which means I took double the credits. So I really totally killed myself a lot. And sometimes I feel that I'll have a moment with a brain fart or something, which I guess is just me being older, but I'm like, all the things that just fell out of my head that was once there. So if you do go to art school, one of the professors gave me this idea, and I have done this ever since. Whenever I come across a book or an item of interest that I can use for the future that is positive, I save it. Now, it's different than hoarding, okay? Hoarding, no, don't do any of that. But only if you need to. For example, I own my art business right now. Well, I have an art business, and I sell what they call merch. So, it's things that accompany my classes that I teach, side little things. I have little embroidered sweaters and little purses I make, and it's just a nice little thing to have in my store. And so it's extra little way of making money. Now, when I was in college, they required me to take a costume construction class. Now, they give you a list of all the different classes of what you want to take and where to go with it. And so you can kind of customize your journey as you go. And that was really cool because I really enjoyed theater. I was very much into it. So I took a lot of those classes. And I saved a lot. I saved pretty much everything from that class that was knowledgeable. I threw out my homework and all those papers, but the books and the notes and everything I kept. Well, now I actually, all these years later, I reference those books. I go back in there and I'm like, okay. I see. I remember. Because, they give you a lot. When you go to the university, they require you to read a ton. Each class gives you an average between 4 to 6 books to read for the semester. Semester's usually 4 months. So, they expect you. And this brings me to a point as to why possibly I think that art school could be not so good. Because back then Google was just barely starting and it wasn't really a thing. It wasn't that involved as it is now. Well, now you can get on Google and look up just about everything you want, a really fancy encyclopedia. For example, you're listening to this podcast right now. You could be at a seminar somewhere paying somebody a whole bunch of money to listen to their opinion. And sometimes there were a few classes I took where I felt like I was just being preached to, where it's that one teacher's perspective and the authors of the books that was required reading for that class. And so then that's okay. Let's say that's 5. That's a professor plus 4 books. That's 5 people's perspectives. Sometimes there's co-authors and all that, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's a limited pool of ideas. Whereas, for example, the other day I wanted to Google how to make a Chinese knot purse. It's a bag, and mostly you see geishas will have them. And I thought the design was really cute when I saw a photo on Pinterest, so I Googled it. Now, I spent an hour where I just researched all over, and I watched several videos from several different channels, points of views that were little 5-minute video clips, and I read a couple articles here and there. I looked at a ton of photographs on Google, and I kind of just pieced it together, and at the end, after an hour, I went and made my own, and it came out really cute. And the positive from that experience was that I was able to get a lot of different ideas from many different people, and seeing the photographs, like going and seeing on YouTube the photo with, in their channel. I'm like, I prefer to look at videos where I'm like, okay, well, that's the end result. So yeah, okay, I like yours. Yours looks cute. So I'm going to see how you did it. And then if I see one, then I'm like, ooh, yeah, I don't like how yours turned out. It's not pretty. And then I don't have to watch the video. Now, the other problem, though, with doing that method and not going to art school is that, can you really trust that they're giving you valuable knowledge? Because honestly, anybody can say anything online. That's the whole big situation as to why art school is good. But then here, hold up. With that being said, think of it this way. Can you trust the professor? Well, yeah, you should be able to trust the professor because, well, he was vetted because he got his job and he is where he is today. Okay, we give you that. But who's to say that that guy or girl is not an idiot and just got their job because they just know how to do a good interview and have a nice resume? Would you rather talk to the person who is actually in the moment doing it and living what you were trying to do? Or would you rather take a class from somebody who was doing what you would like to do as a hobby when they're not teaching a class? I would rather be the apprentice and study under somebody who is actively, and has been for a long time, actively engaged in what they are teaching. I also took a lot of business classes in college, and I really feel that they helped me out a lot. However, looking back at my experience, there are things that they taught me that now when I actually have my own business, I'm like, no. When I go back in my notes to try to, think of new ideas, what I could do with my business, and, you're always trying to better your business and everything. And I'll see a note and I'll be like, ooh, yeah, I don't want to do that. But then this was valuable advice 20 years ago. But now, because of the internet, it's no longer a good deal anymore. It's like the idea that 50 years ago, the concept of a timeshare was really cool. The hotels that you pay to have membership to, they were awesome. But now that we have Travelocity and Airbnb and all different websites, it kind of makes it now that timeshares are no longer worth it anymore. It's cheaper to go through other avenues. But back in the 50s, to go and to search and the communications and just getting everybody together to be on the same page was very difficult. So I feel the same concept of that, the business model, when you take it to the school level, is kind of a little bit the same thing. For example, my costume teacher was amazing. She worked on Broadway for I think 15 years before, and she was just so knowledgeable. And she decided to, I don't remember the whole details, but anyway, she was working, she had the life experience, and then she made a decision to go back to school, get her master's, and become a professor. And then she was my teacher. Now, she was so knowledgeable. She told me everything, and all the information of my notes that I have from her have been so right on. Now, let's flip this over. I had another teacher, and he taught stage construction. And like I took his class on how to paint a set, so like wall painting and murals, in the back. So like they have these pretend walls they put up for a theater, and he was teaching a class on treating the walls to make effects, so that like we did like a woodsy scene, we did a stone wall theme for different plays that had happened throughout the course of the semester. It was a very valuable class. I learned a lot of techniques on painting on a large scale. This guy he went to college, he went through the whole thing, and then became a professor and taught. He was working on his craft while teaching, but he didn't have experience outside of the classroom of being in the real world doing what it was that he was doing. And so, yeah, I learned a lot, and I have photographs from the time in my notes, and I kept, detailed records so I could reference them for future use. And yeah, I don't know. Good techniques, but now, all these years later, I have painted several murals, and just by going through the motions of experimenting myself and working through my art, I am so much better. Like, I feel that if you put what I'm doing now compared to what he was teaching and what he was doing, I mean, he was a great guy, really nice guy. Just, he wasn't practical with like how he spent money on supplies. When you're trying to have a business and you're doing this for, you got to pay your bills and stuff. And so like, and just this art science. Yeah, so that's to be said too. So if you're going to go to an art school, take a moment and really check out your people and be like, do a little background research on, don't go creepy or anything, but I'm just the professional experience that these professors have before you sign up to do a bachelor's degree, or like you don't want to be stuck for 4 or 6 years and then realize that they were just a bunch of idiots. So don't waste your time. Research your people. I took an astronomy class that was just because when you go, you have to take other classes of like science, math, history. You have to take all these areas, and you can kind of have some leeway to choose what you want. And my astronomy teacher, she was the head of the team that sent the first rover to Mars. And she was the team leader of that project with NASA. And she had just recently had finished that project. And then here I was at school a couple years later. Oh my goodness, did this lady have insane amount of knowledge. I mean, a total girl crush, like hardcore girl crush on this lady. She was a mathematician. She was like Legally Blonde, cute, pretty dresses coming into school. Like she had it all. And she looked like my superhero. And so I never would have had the experience to have met her and to have worked with her and studied. And we went to the Mars Hill Observatory on a field trip, and then we had telescopes at the school too that we were allowed to use in her class. And oh my goodness, to this day she opened my eyes, and I have a really great appreciation because I got to meet her. And oh my goodness, just so nice. So those are great opportunities, and I picked her class because of who she was, and I was like, I need to meet her. So like, pick your school. Don't just pick it for its name. Pick it because like research the teachers, the people that you will be directly working with and studying from, and look at what they've done in their audit them. And if they're great, they're good. Also, another thing to consider too. I had a figure drawing class where we studied the human form and we would do anatomy. So we would have the class, but then we would also have a lab. Now you have the class where it's like a lecture, and then the lab is like where you do practical doing the craft. And so with this class, it was drawing people. So we learned about anatomy, and then we would have 2 days a week where we would go, and they had a live model in front of us, and we would use what we learned in the lecture before, and we would focus on the techniques of whatever it was that we were supposed to be focusing on. And being in the university setting to have that experience was really great because it was very professional, completely professional all the way. And then it was also unique in that every time we had a class, we had a different model to look and to paint and to draw. And I did do a sculpting segment, which was pretty cool, to try to 3D it. That was cool. And I would not have had that experience had I have not been in the class. And I have also taught these classes in my art studio where I have hired models to come in, and I've been the teacher and I've taught these classes. But being in the university and going through the class was like just so much easier to participate than now me having to be the instructor and go around and network, and then at the last minute the model decides that they're not going to do it, or something happens and they can't show up, and it's a huge headache. So it's like, yeah, I have my business, I'm enjoying it, but I'm like the worker bee now. Like when I was in college, I could just pretty much focus on the art itself and the topic of the day, whereas now I kind of have to juggle everything. And sometimes I do find that I need people to motivate me and I need to push, which I think is human nature, because I feel that I am very self-sufficient with my business and I can do it, but there's some part of me that just wants to watch TV all day. And when I'm in college, I had money on the line that I was like, well, if I'm paying it, I might as well, okay, suck it up, deal with it, and just figure it out and get it done. Whereas now, it's more that I have time that on the line. If I don't complete the objective I set out, or I have things that I've told myself as a business owner I need to accomplish every day, I have tasks I set for myself and ideas that I have to complete. And every time I have an idea, I have a rule that I have to implement it right away. If I have an idea, let's try it. And then I got to do it. And if I don't do it, then it just push it off to later. And then it never gets done. And then here I am 4 months later, it never happened. And then all of the positive stuff that could have come from me of finishing that objective, I never get to have any of those positive things come out of it. So that is my rule. I have to be very on it all the time to keep myself going forward. They say time is money, and I have bills I need to pay. Now, I do think going through the college made me a better artist, but I don't think it was because it was the college. I think what it was because I spent a large portion of my time focusing on art and just working in the medium. Now, I think you also can do this without taking classes. I have had some students come to me, this happened to me a couple of times, where they will be interested in furthering their art, and then I'm looking at their portfolio and the things they've done, and I'm like, there's nothing I can teach you. You're really good. And it's like, oh, I've never had formal education. I'm like, you really don't. I mean, look, all your stuff's good. Maybe some art science might help you. So those, usually that's what I end up teaching, is I'll be like, okay, well, let me tell you some science behind why. And that's pretty cool because, you do kind of need, they're boring. Oh my goodness, all the classes I took, the art science classes, were so boring. Tons. But now I feel like it saved me money. And then also I feel like I'm better for it. That I'm like, okay, I get it now. Like taking a class on perspective. I wrote a book about it, and yeah, it's worth taking a moment to figure out, because now my paintings are like way more 3D than they used to be a million years ago, before I had sat down and really thought about it. And so, yeah, really, if you're going to go to school and you don't practice and push yourself and really work on the exercises, even if they feel dumb and you don't just go through the motions, you ain't going to go nowhere. So you got to go through the motions. It's part of the whole deal. And I could really talk forever on the topic. Let's see. Let's answer this question. Would I go back and do it again? Yes or no? Yes, I would do it again. However, I wished that I would have taken a few years off from high school and financially prepared myself better and put myself in a better financial position so that when I do go to college, I would be able to have the opportunity to not have to work full time plus go to school full time. I wish that I had the opportunity to just fully immerse myself in my education. Like right now, for example, I have a daughter and I am in the process right now of investing and growing wealth so that if in the future she does choose to go to the university, she can financially do so. I'm trying to get her ready now. Hopefully by then she'll be ready. Going straight from high school to college and not having some time to mature a little bit, could help to have a little buffer right there to not be young, dumb, and stupid. I felt going away to the university was a little sad for me because I grew up in an environment where I saw the same people every day. I went to a Christian high school where I saw the same 25 kids every day for 4 years. And even before that, when I was in junior high, there was 20 of us in the class. And then I think before that was like 10. So I saw these same kids every day. At home, I saw my family every day. And then when I went away, I felt like I was in boarding school and I didn't know anybody. So that was I knew it was happening, but to live it and to go through the experience of not knowing anybody, making new friends, I felt my first 2 months there, I felt very isolated and alone. And they offer programs at the college and everything to help you with that. And I did take advantage of them, but I don't know. In the end of the day, it's still not the same. Like, I missed my buddies. I missed my family. I felt a little bit of a depression. And then also they offer extracurricular activities and you got to sleep, you got to take care of yourself, you got to go to work, and then you got to go to school. So it's like it leaves you little time left over that you're like, yeah, let's go hang out. So I felt constantly, my time there, I felt isolated a lot, that I was always busy and occupied, which did keep me out of trouble. But I was very depressed and very sad all the time because I was alone, all by myself. And now this is the days before social media hadn't been invented yet. So like a lot of my family was in Mexico, which meant a calling card and email was just barely starting to be a thing. So it really wasn't. We were still on fax machines. And so that's how that went down. But everybody has a different experience. And here's another thing too. I know several artists personally because, it's my business. I'm very sociable. I don't ever see somebody as a competitor. I see them as a fellow artist that's just trying to make a living and do their thing. And so I always like to partner when I can with people, especially good people. And I have met some amazing artists that are just so insane with their art and have a really good business model and all these different things. And they didn't even go to college. So I think it depends on what type of person you are and how you are going to treat your experience in art school and what you're going to do with it. Because if you're not going to take it seriously, don't do it. Don't waste your money. You'll be in debt. But then again, it can help you. Like, for example, I took a class about how to build a website. Now, it didn't help me for many years. I never had a website, but now I have a website, and that going through that class had helped me. However, the problem with that was I learned code from a long time ago. So the code I'm working with now is called Liquid, and it wasn't even invented back then. And it's similar concepts, basic structure and idea, but it's still like I had to relearn a whole brand new alphabet just to figure out how to do it. And then as time passes, like I use the platform of Shopify. I've tried GoDaddy, I've tried all of the different ones, and in the end of the day, I feel that Shopify it's a little more pricey, but I feel that it dumbs down making a website really easy. No, it's not, okay? I really had to cry over this and work at it a lot to get the website where it is. But in my experience of shopping around with all of them, the Shopify explained it to me step by step how to do it, what to plug it in. And then once I got the gist, I then was reading blogs and looking at other people's websites and then coming up with ideas and different things and trying it and creating my website to be something unique and different. Now, this is a whole example right here that you could say I didn't go to college to do that. I didn't go to a school to teach me to do that. I did take one semester in college, but like I said, that was a different type of code. It was different math equations, different ways of writing the code so that it would work there. So now this is something totally new. It's like learning a whole new language. There were two different languages of code. And so now with Shopify, they are very particular with their website. So I didn't need a teacher explaining it to me. All I needed to do was read their blog that they put out all the time. Which is, I guess, a teacher, but like it's not like a formal education where it was a formal school that I had to go to teach me how to do this. I just pretty much read their the FAQ page, every website has like question and answer page. I read all of it and it took me like 2 weeks. It was a whole thing. And then I keep always coming up and like they have a YouTube channel and I watch their little videos that come out once a week. And, now I feel that I'm to the point where I'm like, I got it. Unless you guys have something new that you're going to add to the code, I've pretty much figured it out. And so it's self-education, but I forced myself. Like I pretty much locked myself in a room for 2 weeks, the initial part. And then for, let's say, the first year, I spent around 2 to 3 hours, 5 days a week working on the website. And then I spent about 2 hours. Now I spend roughly about 1 hour of my day on social media and working on advertising to get people to my website. And a lot of that is just using social media and figuring it out. I didn't have to go to college for somebody to teach me how to use social media. I just started pushing all the buttons and figuring it out. So, I don't know, had I have gone to college for computers, maybe my business would be way better with the website. But as of right now, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm making sales. It's the thing that I set up to do is working the way it's supposed to work. So yeah, when you go to art school, I want you to think, if you're going to go, or if you're not, I just want you to think, and it's so cliche and it sounds so stupid and dumb, but think to yourself, in 5 years from now, when I finish this program, or if it's a year program, in a year from now, will I be better off than I am now? Will I be financially okay? Emotionally okay? Because when you add something like that to your life and you're spending that extra time, I didn't see my family for a while. I was busy going to school. So, are you going to be okay in that direction? Like, do you have children? Are your children going to be able to be okay with you missing for a few hours while you're studying? So think about all that. And then also at the end of the day, are you going to be a better artist? Is it really going to help you? Are you going to be better than you are now? Which obviously you should be. I mean, especially if you go to school and you have so many people trying to give you pointers and ideas and you're working through it and they push you through a time schedule of pushing you through those activities. And then also, another good point I didn't bring up. when I did these classes, at the end of the class, we would always, the school I went to was very big onto peer critiques. So a lot of the classes were kind of pass-fail in some of them. And those classes, before the teacher would make the final verdict, they had a thing where the students would each, it was a good school that my classes were never over 20 kids. I mean, my science and general study classes where I had like 200 kids, and it was in a stadium practically. And they'd have the Promethean board and all that. But like my core classes that were art related classes, they never went over 20 kids. And so we would do the lab class where it was hands-on training. And then at the end of the class, which usually those classes are between 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 3 times a week. And at the end of the session, for like the last 30 minutes, the teacher would have us get up and look at everybody else's art. And we would go around the room and go to the front of the classroom or whatever and show off what we did. And then everybody would have 5 minutes to discuss what they're seeing with what we did. And the whole point was to be in a respectful way to give constructive criticism that was harsh. So like we really had to, like, the teachers would be like, no, really, tell us what you think. And then we would have to, and it was in purpose to be able to, I didn't think of that, and that's a good idea, and yeah, you know what, you're right, or like to have the response of that, because that helped me in that now I really honestly don't care what people think. I do care, I do, and I'm like, okay, ideas. But then when I sometimes have a critic that is just harsh and mean, just for the sake of being nasty, like, I'm able to be like, yeah, okay, whatever, next. Like, I don't, it doesn't freak me out, like, it really doesn't. And I think it had a lot to do with getting over the stage fright of, I worked so hard for the past 2 hours on my painting, and now I'm up on stage holding up my painting, and everybody's staring at it, telling me what they think. And like, they don't hold back. Some of the guys in the class could really just, they could be mean. And but you're supposed to be like adults. So you're not supposed to be catty. You're just supposed to be like, here's why I think it sucks, and give details, because the teachers would make us. If you said something negative, you had to go into detail as to why. And then also they would have constructive criticism, as in, like, the other students would be like, well, no, I think you're wrong, and here's why. So then it opened up debate and dialogue. And having that debate and dialogue and being amongst peers was really cool. I feel that also pushed me forward a lot. And it helped me see things. Because sometimes, like, I'll do a class, I'll make a class, and you know how I film myself painting, like a Bob Ross kind of situation. And then I'll have them on YouTube, or I'll have them like as digital downloads for people to download and watch. And so I'll go to all this effort and I'll paint something that I'm like, yeah, I think that's cool, someone's gonna like that. And then I have no views. Nobody buys the video, nobody watches it, and it's like, so stressful. I put so much work and effort. I tried to make the video as cool as possible and the painting as cool as possible. But like, it's more that I get frustrated that I wasted my time. And then sometimes I think, well, maybe I'm just not advertising it in the right way. Or then sometimes, like, somebody will point out to me and I'll be like, oh, I didn't see that. And then I'll be like, okay, yeah. So then I'll hurry up and I'll go fix it, or like maybe I'll film it again or something. And then, yeah. And then it's so much better. So I was able to get really thick skin when going to the university. So that was a positive. So I don't know. I guess as I'm talking, I'm coming out with more positives than negatives. But in the end of the day, the amount of money it costs and the loneliness I experienced about being in boarding school, it was a hard time. It was a very difficult, sad, lonely time. And I'm just so happy that I was fortunate enough to find a job that did not leave me with debt, because I know money isn't everything. But like, for example, kids at like Penn State right now is currently charging $8,000 and something a semester. So that's like $17,000 for 1 year of study. And a bachelor's degree should be 4 years, but the way they structure their classes, they really try to push it out there. So, and sometimes this was tricky. This happened 1 year to me, and I was so upset about it, because there are classes that they don't offer every single semester, and that's really a staffing issue and just a size of the building, like where are they going to put the class kind of situation. And so they'll offer it every 2 years. Well, if you miss it, then that means you have to wait till it comes back again. And then when it comes back again, the thing is, you have to take classes that are prerequisites that come before other classes. So this happened to me with one of my classes. It was history of art. And so we studied, the class was about like the Renaissance and just things that have happened historically with art. And I mean, pretty common sense stuff. I could Google all that stuff now. But anyways, I had to wait for it, and I had to take 1 and 2, and I had to take those 2 classes before I could take my second class of costume construction, because the costume construction on my second one was historical costuming. And so they all kind of, everything like goes together, like it all works out together. And so that was very stressful and put me on a slower path. I ended up having a semester that ended up being just filler classes and stuff to do, honestly, because I've already, like, I had like three credits that I didn't want to go down to part-time, which is cheaper. I just wanted to get it done. And then there were other classes that were outside that didn't really necessarily add to my major, but they were still fun and cool, that interested me. So I took those classes. But you have to have so many units of credit for each one to be able to count so that you get your degree. And so, yeah, it was fun. But then it's also the concept of being a lifetime student. Which, yeah, I feel that I still am a lifetime student. I'm just at this point in my life, am not paying somebody to teach me. I am going and looking for the knowledge and I still read a lot. I read more blogs than anything. I was reading large books for a long time, the authors and stuff. And what I found was the same people that write books also write blogs. And usually when they write the blog, it tends to be a summary of the other stuff that they talk about in the big books that they're writing. So I'd rather read the summary and save myself like a lot of time and headache. I mean, even I do that myself. I wrote several books, and if you were to follow any of my social media, when I post, I find myself not doing it on purpose, but I will take a topic, I will post on the topic, and really some of these topics are found in my book, in one of my books, really, like the book I wrote about color theory. I did a series of posts that were on the topics of the ideas of like, what is a hue, what is shade, what is the difference between shade and value, and here's an image and a brief paragraph explaining the difference. But then if you read my book, I've got a whole chapter on the topic. So it's like, yeah, reading the book's really great. And that's what they're going to do in college. They're going to give you the whole book to read, and you should. And you get a lot more detail and a lot more behind the scenes. But sometimes, honestly, straight to the point can just be way easier. You know, like some of my classes were like, really, can we just get to the point here? I don't want to be hanging out in social hour. Like, let's just get to the point. I got stuff to do. I did have a semester in which I found that I was overworking myself, and like I was working a lot because at work a lot of the girls they had like a walkout where they all got upset, and I understood why, but I liked my job, and all the reasons they had didn't really affect me with my job, my performance, and my day-to-day. So it just didn't, like, they were all mad because they hired this one girl, and it just, everybody just didn't like her. And honestly, I never worked with her because I worked the nighttime shift and she worked the daytime shift. So like we never bumped into each other. So I never had a problem. Well, everybody on the staff walked out. There was a couple that stayed behind. So we still stayed open, and I still continued working. I made good money. I did well. And I had to pick up extra shifts because, well, you know, there's not that many people there anymore, and they were in the process of hiring. So there was like 2 months there where my boss was like, I need you all the time. So I ended up going in all the time, and which is great for my finances. But then I was still going to classes, and I also was going through a speed through program. So I was taking more credits than they're normally expected to take. And I completely spaced out one of my classes, like all the way. And it wasn't a rude thing or anything. It was just the teacher was mad, and he thought I was being rude to him, and he was so upset about it, like he took it personally. But really, I went there the first day, and then I, like, in the transferring from the paper to my notebook, that one class, something must have happened. I just didn't write it into my little planner. And so for a whole entire semester, I didn't go. And then at the end, the teacher sent me an email is what it was. And I opened it, and this is, you know, email was still kind of a new thing. Like, we were still learning how to use it back then. And oh my goodness, I was so upset at myself that I lost the knowledge and my time and the money that I had to pay for that class. I was just furious and livid that this had happened. And I went to the teacher and I apologized. I cried in his office. I was like, please. And then I asked him if maybe he could let me out of the class. And by then, because they only give you a buffer, I think of like 2 weeks where you can decide to drop out of the class and it doesn't go on your record. And he said, sorry, too late. And he took it personally. So then I'm like, okay. So then I spent the next week studying and really working and putting all my energy into that class so I could at least get a good grade. And I tried to go back through and read everything. And then I didn't even pick up the books for that class at the bookstore. They were still sitting there on the shelf waiting for me. So that was a whole drama. And then what happened was it ended up suffering all the other classes. I didn't study for them as much because I was so preoccupied with this one. I figured the knowledge of my other classes were in there. Well, long story short, I ended up getting B's that entire semester. All my classes were B's, which were great. Getting a B is good. But it's like, I had a perfect 4.0. So like, you know, so close. So close. So yeah, don't let this happen to you. And this comes back full circle to the whole finance situation, you know, like there's only so much you can do. And God forbid you have children at the same time, or you have to take care of somebody who is sick or something, you know, like, it's a lot, you know. So yeah, it's a lot to think about. All these little things. I had this grand vision of how my life was going to go, and it did, and it's pretty much on course. But like, you really got to struggle, you know. And at the same time, with that note, there is also times in my life where I have tried to not go the educational route and just do it myself. and then I come up with little problems and little quirks and little things that I'm like, and then I'm like, I don't know, and who can I talk to? And it's not like the YouTube video can talk back to me to answer my question. And like, that has been very frustrating. So if art is something you want to do not burn your bridges, and be very sociable and surround yourself with loving people who are on a similar journey that you're on, and also especially with people who have been there, done that, and they can mentor you. I mean, really, it's good to let somebody be able to tell you the reality, like the outside looking in or looking back on the situation. I wanted to remind you, if you're interested in what I'm doing as an art teacher and just with my art in general, and you need a mentor, I am offering my services. This is something I do. Now, I don't take on everybody. I do have a lot of people that do inquire about it. So if you could please send me a message and a link so that I can check out your art and your art journey to see if maybe that there is a way I can help you. And I basically don't want to waste your time or my time. So please just send me a message, and I'll take a look. And if I see something that I can be give you some pointers and ideas and help you with your own art business, please let me know. And yeah, that's about it for now. I'm going to have more of these podcasts, so stay tuned for more. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen and to hang out. And I really do feel valued, appreciated, and loved, especially the fact that you've made it this far. I mean, I thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope that this has helped you. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to, just write me something. I always have my phone with me, so it'll ding when I get the message, and I'll be able to respond to you right away. If you choose not to go to art school, here is an idea that you might find helpful. Now, every 2 weeks, I have a group of amazing artists that get together on Zoom to hang out and create art together. And I'm inviting you to join along. Now, this is more of an 18 and older crowd, but we have a lot of fun, tons and tons of fun. So the whole point is that everybody has their camera and it's pointed to the art that they're creating, which most of the group is painters. We have a couple ladies that do crochet. We have a guy that does wood carving, and he turns his volume off, but then we can see in the video that he's carving. And we have you can choose to have your video on or off, whatever you're more comfortable with. And it's pretty much just an art discussion for 3 hours. We hang out and socialize and talk about art, and it's really fun. Anything and everything. I do not censor anything whatsoever. So we get all genres and ideas. And if you're working on something and you need a critique on it to help you with your journey, if maybe you're working on something and you're like, I'm not sure what direction I need to go in, well, there's 100 people in this group. Sometimes I can get up to 500 people. Sometimes it's only 100 people. I never know. Week to week, it's always different. But we do meet every 2 weeks. And you never know what you're going to get. But it always is art related. And I myself have gained in a lot of art knowledge just by being able to talk to some of these people, especially the fact that everybody's from around the world. So that's even extra special because everybody comes from a different background and has a different way of looking at things and different ideas and techniques on how they're doing what they do. Now, the whole group is in English. That's one of the prerequisites of the whole thing. Otherwise, it would be chaotic and nobody would be able to communicate. So I'm sure that you're listening to me now, so you know English, so don't worry about that. So everybody around the world, we're all speaking English, and it's all about art. So you might, I don't know, it could possibly be something cool to try out in lieu of, or maybe an added benefit to go to art school. Now, there are some people that do go to art school that come to this group and hang out, and they share their ideas. We discuss topics and ideas and theories, and so it's very educational. You might get something from it, so please check it out. You'll find the link so it's always a new Zoom link every 2 weeks. So it's like I cycle through and everything. And so you're going to find the link on my website, and I call it the Art Club. So just go to my website, type in the search bar Art Club, and it'll pop it up and it'll give you the link and everything. So yeah, I hope to see you there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Here's another good idea. I'm teaching painting classes all the time, literally all the time. This is pretty much all I do all day. And I'm uploading one a week to YouTube and one a week to the website. They're both different. They discuss different topics, and every single painting is different, and I go through all the different types of genres. So if you see a post and you're like, I don't like that one, just wait a minute and then check out some of my other stuff too, because I'm always forever cycling through and going through genres. So eventually you're going to find something that you think is really cool. And like always in all my classes, it's all about the knowledge and information. So all the stuff that I learned in college, and also the stuff that I learned just being an artist and doing art, I try to make it condensed and to the point, and I try so hard to never make these classes over 2 hours. So they're straight fun and to the point, but they're just long enough. I mean, I hate it going on YouTube and finding a class that's only like 10 minutes just to find out that it's actually just a speed painting and it's not really a class, whereas mine are actually like class. Every so often I'll do like a quick speed through just to show what the class is kind of about, but just check it out. I'm pretty sure that you'll find something you like. And I don't know, if you don't see anything, then give me some positive constructive criticism. I'm up for the challenge. Give me a cool idea or send me a picture of something, and yeah, I'll work in the studio and see what I can come up with. And like always, if you have any questions, just message me. I'm always a cell phone notice away. My message will ding as soon as I get it, so I'll be able to answer. And thank you so much for spending this time with me and hanging out. I really had a lot of fun.